Investigation into the origins of the coronavirus.
COVID-19 has impacted life everywhere for billions of people.
Today, 37,535 positive cases of coronavirus were recorded.
Their deaths a rallying cry for justice. George Floyd has protesters demanding change, led by Black Lives Matter once again.
Joe Biden has won the American presidential election.
The divisions inside America couldn't be more extreme. And fresh pictures like these of what happened inside Washington's Capitol building on January the 6th keep on surfacing.
Hello and welcome to the 2020 review, where I'm joined with my co-host Josh Davies.
Hello.
And today we're going to be focusing on the month of January 2020, where a lot of things happened.
A lot, yes.
Well, at the start of January in 2020, we had the Australian bushfires, which actually burnt down 47 million acres of land and killed at least 34 people.
34 people. That, do you know what it is? The bushfires, right? That is by far the worst one we've seen to date. Like, it was just like, I know like the LA like fires were like terrible, but they were like, they weren't as bad because like Australia is not really a big country, to be fair. And all the fires that were going on were just, it was ridiculous. Like there was a lot of like wildlife and plant life that were just destroyed along with like their habitats and everything.
Well, I know a lot of people actually had to like evacuate the homes and stuff due to like the fires burning down the house and stuff like that. So I can't imagine what that was like for them.
Like I couldn't imagine living in like the outback. Like it was like the outback of Australia, and I just can't imagine like living out there and like having like acres upon acres of land just destroyed, because there's a lot of farms out there as well. There's a lot of people where how they made their money is off the farms, like selling things like, I don't know, like corn. People sell cow like feces for like fertilizers and everything, and that's how they predominantly make their money.
Well, I mean, it would have put a lot of people into like homeless shelters and stuff like that due to the houses being burned down. So I know there's a lot of charities going about and things like that, like to try and help them get back to the state where they were before. So it must have been awful for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, so on the news, I remember back in January, and it was koalas were nearly like extinct because like they predominantly live in like on like trees and like out there, and there wasn't like a lot of koalas left, to be fair. Like there still isn't now.
So yes, I think we can both agree that it was an awful start to 2020.
100%.
Well, something that also happened in 2020, we had the death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna Bryant, along with a family who I believe was a basketball coach, his wife and his daughter on a helicopter. So definitely a death that shocked the world this year, I believe.
Yeah, that was just terrible. Like, he was one of the most like well-known. He was a basketball player, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
He was like one of the most well-known basketball players, and like it was such a shock to hear when he died. Like I remember seeing on I know it sounds silly, but I remember seeing on Jeffree Star's Snapchat story saying because it crashed right near his house, and it was just absolutely terrible. There was a lot of people, but his funeral was one of the most like well put together funerals I've ever seen in all my life. Like Beyonce sang at it. There was a lot of like mainstream celebrities there that were paying tribute, and it was just absolutely awful.
Well, I did some research on him the other day, and he had a total of 20 years in his basketball career, which all of them were for the LA Lakers, so the LA basketball team. And I'm sure after he retired, he started up his own like basketball coaching thing with his daughter, so he still had something to do with like other students as well. So it was honestly heartbreaking to see that them people and them students wouldn't have the chance of learning from one of the greatest basketball players of all time, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would have been horrific for them.
Oh, 100%. His daughter wasn't even that old either. She was in like her early teens. I think she was like 13, yeah. And like she had a whole life to live, and just that instant she was just gone.
Not only that, it'll be awful for the family as well. I mean, his wife will be going on the rest of her life a widow with her, and the kids will be growing up without a sister in the household, and they won't have a father figure. I can't imagine what it's like for them.
100%. Like his wife, like bless her heart. I remember seeing her funeral because the funeral was it was on the news, and then I think it was like there's a video out there. I remember when I think Beyonce started singing at the funeral, she was just distraught. You could just see it on her face where she'd probably cried that much that she literally just sat there with like a blank face and just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Something else that happened in January as well, moving on, was the start of the global pandemic in China. COVID-19.
Yeah, I've got it written down here. The COVID-19 pandemic, when the World Health Organization announced that coronavirus had started in Wuhan, China, which then sent the globe into a panic about a virus which would soon kill over 1.5 million people and infect over 70 million. And when I wrote this down, it was quite a while ago. Some numbers are probably a lot higher. And obviously, the UK has recently hit a total of 100,000 deaths to COVID-19. I mean, in reality, it's just a mess. I mean, I think the UK is still getting like 1,000 cases a day or something. And obviously, the US are getting unreal amounts of cases per day. But then there's countries like New Zealand who are walking the streets with no masks, no worry about the virus. They're doing well for themselves.
Exactly. It's like it's honestly it was so confusing at the time because I remember seeing on the news like people were like Wuhan in China were building like you should have seen there's a photo out there of I think it's something like 20 diggers trying to build a hospital because their hospitals were just completely like overstocked with people like getting cases because it's this new virus, but there's been a lot more strains because the 19 in COVID is for the number of strain that they're on, and it was just absolutely terrible. Like the way that it went on, it's that like COVID's been around for years, and it's never exceeded this much, whereas it had because there's a lot of theories out there about how it's happened, but the one thing that we were aware of at the time was that someone had eaten animals because in China they eat like a lot of different animals. They'll eat like bats, like ostrich. They'll eat everything in over there. It's like it's absolutely terrible, and I just couldn't believe that that was happening. Like coming to March, I couldn't. I was in physical shock when my college said that we were closing down until further notice. I was like, this is getting serious now.
Yeah, I remember in January, because obviously I was still in secondary school at the time, I didn't really think much of it. I mean, I thought it was just going to be like sort of the flu where they'd find a vaccine for it sooner or later and we'd still be in school. And I thought I'd like end up sitting my GCSEs, and then it got to about March time and then we broke up and then we had predicted grades. I mean, just no one really could have expected it. It couldn't be written.
Oh, 100%. I remember in March when it was everyone was like, "Oh, all college is closing, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, haha." And it was like months later, and we were just like, "I don't even know when we're going to get the chance."
Not to mention it'll have been a hard time for everyone because I'm pretty sure mental health hit a rock bottom, so everyone will have been struggling in some way, shape, or form, really.
Yeah, like I personally felt. I don't think it. I think it was the first couple of months, like I'd say from probably March till May. I was just like, right, okay, I can cope with being in the house on my own because it's not in the like I live with just my dad, and it's like mainly just us two in the house. There's never really anyone else. Um, and I remember when like my dad works like long days and then he'll work overnight and I'm in the house. And I would normally just like sit and play like on my games or watch something or be like start to like find a new hobby or something like that. And then it got to like May and I was just like, I don't know how long I'm going to be, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to sit like this because I've not really struggled with bad mental health in the past. Like I've been bullied and all that malarkey, but like that's just everyone's had that at some point in their lives. But then it got the point where I was like, I felt so alone.
Well, I mean, I've never really struggled with mental health before until like lockdown, when I was just like sort of sat in bed all day, every day, just not feeling myself and just like staring at the same four walls all the time. And it like really made me miss family and friends, which we take for granted that we don't get to see them and things like that. So, yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like, I remember I've like never really had a lot of friends in my life. So it was like, I remember, and I'm the only one that when I went to my old college in Hartlepool, that I was the only one that lived outside of the town. I was the furthest away from everyone. Everyone was able to like go on walks together. And I was sat in the house because I was too, I don't think the fear hit until the peak in April where I was like, I don't even feel comfortable going to the shop without having a mask on, like even walking the streets, let alone being in the shop with close people. But like everyone was going on walks and like at least seeing each other as much as they could. Whereas I was just in the house, like on my own, just watching it on people's social media, like saying, "Oh, have a nice walk with so and so," and I felt like really left out, and that's when I felt very alone in sort of a way.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I definitely felt alone a lot. I mean, my mum was still working from 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock at work, and my stepdad was working away. My brother was still going to uni. So, I mean, it was just awful, really. And then it all sort of, the oldest ended up being stuck in the house, just like I was. Like, my mum's been working from home since about April time. Um, my brother's been working from home since about March, like me, and my stepdad just trying to find a job whenever he can. It's just awful, really. And I think we should go on to the last topic of our podcast, which is an interview with Tracy Vincent about how COVID-19 and the pandemic affected her work. Right, hello. We're here with a interviewee, Tracy Vincent. What do you do for a living, Tracy?
So I work as supply chain support manager within BT/EE.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about January 2020, and so how did January and the whole coronavirus stuff affect your work?
So really it started to affect because obviously we've been part of supply chain. We have to do a lot of deliveries and ship out, and obviously the talk of it was starting with your social distancing, the contracting of the virus, etc. And as I've said, we supply to various customers and also direct to retail and other supply chains, as in Asda for mobile phones, etc. So there was regular voice calls to start off with warehouse staff, etc., to find out what the state of play was, what impacts we thought it was going to have on with our area, and what contingencies we could put in place if needed.
Okay. And last question is, did you think the coronavirus pandemic would end up this far down the line?
No, I don't think anybody really thought within the business or outside of the business thought it would come to this. I think when we started to look at starting to do working from home, etc., we thought it'd be for a couple of months. At no point did we think we'd be nearly a year down the line and we'd still be in the same situation.
Okay, that's all. Thank you. Well, that's it, folks, for the first episode of the 2020 review. I'd like to thank you all for listening. Please like, subscribe, feel free to leave a comment, and let us know how your 2020 went, because obviously it's a lot different for many different people. So thank you all for listening, and goodbye.